We all reach a point where we just want to disappear, to escape burnout, to leave society behind, or to put distance between ourselves and a difficult past. The ocean offers the ultimate solution, a natural moat that provides a sense of absolute separation. But there is a terrifying paradox built into this geography. The physical barrier that keeps the rest of the world out is the exact same barrier that traps you in. The moment you realize you aren't alone, that protective moat transforms into a prison wall. This creates a geographic vacuum. By moving to an island, you are opting out of the safety nets of civilization. Cell signals drop off, police response times become irrelevant, and your escape routes vanish into a void. Using real accounts of island terror, we can categorize these threats into 3 distinct architectural and geographical traps: the boundary, the labyrinth, and the choke point. When an island is empty, its isolation is a luxury. But when it's occupied by a predator, that isolation becomes a lethal liability. Consider the case of a 22-year-old escaping a complicated past who booked an isolated shoreline cottage off the coast of Maine. He was looking for the silence of an island that essentially emptied out after the last ferry left for the day. The environment itself masked the coming threat. Thick, overgrown brush pressed directly against the cottage walls, muffling the sounds of the wind and hiding any movement from the water. In the middle of the night, he woke to the sound of heavy, deliberate footsteps on the gravel. They weren't passing by. They stopped directly in front of his door. The intruder tested the handle and shined a flashlight through the door. Then he spoke. "I know you're in there, Leo." The stalker didn't just find a house. He had tracked a specific target to a specific room. The next morning, a line of heavy boot prints in the gravel told the story. They led in a straight line from the cottage door directly to the water's edge. This illustrates the danger of the boundary. The stalker bypassed the island's regulated ferry system entirely, using a small motorboat to cross the water in total darkness and strike at the target's most vulnerable point. A geographical boundary only offers protection if the predator follows the same rules you do. If they have their own transport, the water only serves to pin you down. Hashima Island, a decaying concrete fortress off the coast of Nagasaki, was the site of a different kind of trap. An academic researcher working under a permit arranged by a Professor Yamamoto arrived to study the island's structural decay. At its peak, this was one of the most densely populated places on Earth. Decades after its abandonment, that vertical, stacked architecture has transformed into a complex, restrictive maze of rotting concrete. Deep inside a residential block, the researcher found signs of life. A clear walking path was visible through decades of undisturbed dust. He encountered a wall radiating heat and a smell that didn't belong to any animal. High in a corner room, he found definitive proof: a pile of blankets and fresh water bottles. When he turned to tell his escort, Takeshi, he realized he was standing in the ruins completely alone. He tried to flee down the same stairwell he had just climbed, but found it completely blocked. Someone had piled a barricade of heavy rubble across the landing while he was inside the room. He was forced into the maze, sprinting through dark corridors while hearing multiple sets of footsteps echoing from unknown directions. He was no longer a researcher. He was prey in a vertical trap. This is the concrete labyrinth. In a high-density ruin, architecture shifts from shelter into a weapon. Dead ends and vertical drops are utilized by those who know the terrain to funnel an outsider into a corner. In a complex environment, the advantage always goes to the entity that knows the layout. To the stranger, it's a maze. To the resident, it's a hunting ground. Our final trap is found on North Brother Island, a restricted, overgrown former quarantine hospital sitting in the middle of New York City's East River. Accessing the island requires fighting through massive logistical friction. A group of urban explorers had to sneak in by kayak at 2 a.m., forcing their way through thick, disorienting weeds just to reach the shoreline. Inside the ruins, one student heard his friend Jesse's voice calling to him from a dark room, but Jesse was across the building with the rest of the group. He shined his light into the room and found a 6.5-foot tall figure facing the wall. It wasn't his friend, and it wasn't supposed to be there. Their escape was a choke point. They couldn't just run. They had to navigate the dark, push back through the reeds, and fight the current of the East River while hearing moans from the shore. rowing for their lives at the mercy of the water. The landscape itself creates the terror of the choke point. Every snag in the overgrowth and every slow stroke of the paddle creates a lethal delay, turning a retreat into a struggle against the physical world. Each of these survivors left behind a chilling, unresolved aftermath. Professor Yamamoto, who arranged the Hashima trip, disappeared shortly after. The stalker in Maine was never caught. And the giant in the East River remains on an island that is now more heavily guarded than ever. We cross the water to seek isolation, believing it offers a shield. In reality, leaving the mainland only guarantees that you have stripped away the structural protections of human society. Absolute isolation is a dangerous illusion. If something is already waiting for you in the dark, the geography ensures that no one is coming to help.